first of all I'm going to do is describe the test setup that we've got here. This part over here is what would be deployed in the field. It consists of a Rattler 3i, a couple of terminals, a solar panel. This is a solar charger. This is the battery, and so forth. These are some auxiliary pressure gauges, and this is all connected into these terminal strips over here. What we have over here is a simulator of the tubing pressure. And so that we can monitor the tubing pressure and change that by using a 4 to 20 milliamp injector. Over here is the valve that controls whether gas is flowing or not, that we turn on and off to control the plunger. This over here is the limit switch, which says whether the plunger is up or whether it's down in the well. And this is a reset button that causes the logic table to start over at the beginning of the cycle, so that we can, when your technician goes to site, they can start the logic table over and see what it's doing. This over here is glance, set to be the Okoma plunger here at the IATL, and this shows different parameters and shows that the valve status and so forth is as correct. We can refresh it like that, and it shows that the valve is in fact open, which is the current situation, and the plunger is off. So the glance always reflects the current status of the plunger. We have some diagnostic information coming through over here. This is just for development purposes, so we can see the state in the state machine. There's quite a complex 61 state machine that controls how this whole operation works and detects the various errors. But to give you an idea how it works, I'll start off at the beginning of the cycle by pressing the reset button, and when I release it, what happens is it starts the cycle, and the first thing it does is it closes the valve. The next thing that will cause the plunger to drop, and it's now in state time the plunger drop. This takes We've shortened the timers for the purpose of test, and so this takes 2 or 3 minutes, which is the minimum time for the plunger to fall to the bottom of the well. And if we looked in glance, we can see that in fact the valve is closed and the plunger is not up. It's on its way down to the bottom. So now we're going through this minimum time of the plunger dropping its way to the bottom. Okay, so now the time has gone by for the minimum time for the plunger to fall to the bottom. It's gone to state over here called waiting for pressure. Now it's looking at the increase of the pressure gauge, because the valve is still closed, so the pressure of the gas is building up. And I can simulate this buildup of pressure with this dial over here. And when it gets to about 12, that corresponds to 80% of the static pressure. I'll just move it kind of slowly. It doesn't really matter whether I move it fast or slowly, but indeed the pressure is built up, the valve opens, and the plunger, and now it's waiting for the plunger to come up. So the plunger is now coming up, and there's an ideal plunger rise time, and if the plunger comes up more quickly than that, then we want to extend the cycle time, and if the plunger comes up more slowly than that, we want to decrease the cycle time in order to optimize the amount of gas coming out of the well. And so what we see here is that we've set the timers quite short. The plunger came up very rapidly. I record that the plunger is now up. What it does is it immediately sends the status to glance, and it runs through a couple of things, and what it does now is if you look under glance over here, we can see, refresh that, and we can see that the valve is open and the plunger is up, and now it's in state of cycle start, and it's waiting for the next cycle to carry on. What will happen is that the pressure will decrease, nothing's will happen, except you'll see that the pressures will go from 186 psi over here to now 100 psi. And so that concludes a full cycle. Obviously, we have to look at the error conditions of when the valve doesn't open, when the plunger doesn't drop, or when it doesn't rise, and so forth. And that comes out in these other status of systems errors and enums and so forth.